What's up guys? In this video, I'm going to go over my thoughts after completing the Ultimate Humbucker Shootout featuring 5 different high-end pickups in my Les Paul. If you've not yet watched that video, stop what you're doing and click here to check it out first. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. Disclaimer, these are just my thoughts and impressions as an independent third party. I'm just the player. I purposely left this stuff out of the demo video to not influence what you guys heard. The whole point of the test was just to let the tone do the talking. Still, I thought it was important I do a follow-up because not everything comes across in the video, and there are some things that I think are worth mentioning. Alright, so a quick reminder, the 5 sets featured are the Custombuckers that came stock in my Les Paul, the Righteous Sound RAF1s, the Wizz Premium Clone PAFs, Rewind Electric T-Tops, and Doyle Coil Tru-Clones PAFs. Other than the stock pickups and the RAF1s, I purchased the other 3 sets used, and going from least expensive to most expensive, we will of course start with the stock pickups, the Gibson Custombuckers. So how did I think this set compared to these boutique versions? Well, on their own, I think the Custombuckers sounded really great. They offered a really nice amount of push without being over the top, and they featured plenty of mids. My favorite qualities of these pickups were really the great snap they had on the wound strings when using the bridge pickup, and just the overall tonality of the bridge pickup for rock sounds. They never sounded thin or anemic to me and had a really nice girth to them. Once placed side by side with the other pickups in this comparison, however, some of their flaws did begin to show. Namely, they often came across like something was blocking all of the tone from getting through the guitar to the amp. Seeing as this set is the only one that is potted, that could definitely be part of it. They had a very obvious softness to the high end, and as a player they felt more compressed than the others. The neck pickup in the middle position did leave a lot to be desired for me, whereas the bridge sounded great thanks to its added low mids versus some of the competitors. The middle didn't quite have that lovely quack and shine that I personally look for in a middle position, and the neck honestly felt really outclassed in just about every excerpt. It was woolly and overall pretty undefined. Depending on the music you play though, they may give you just the tone you're looking for, but for the wide variety of stuff I find myself playing, the neck just didn't quite cut it. To listen to this set in isolation to get a more holistic view of how they sound, click here. Next up, we have the most affordable set of aftermarket pickups in this comparison, the Righteous Sound RAF1. These come in at $365 new, and were in the guitar for a couple months prior to the test, so I got a really great sense of what they were about. I also posted a few different clips of me playing through them in a band situation on my Instagram, so check that out at Yeatzee Guitar if you're curious. These felt lower output than the rest, resulting in the amps being pushed less and often having lower overall volume. They featured in my ears a really noticeable scooping in the mids that came across pretty obviously when placed side by side with some of the other pickups. That could be good or bad depending on your preference, but it's undeniable these had great clarity to them. I felt like these had a really good balance. They walked the line between not being more aggressive than the Doyle coils, but not flat like the Custombuckers or the Wizz set. They never really came across as harsh to me. My favorite aspect of this set was their single coil-like snap on the wound strings, and just how fast sounding they were thanks to their really quick attack. Although unpotted, they did not bloom nearly as much as the other unpotted sets. I prefer the bloom personally, however this will likely be more manageable and less unruly in a live environment under lots of gain. Overall, I would definitely recommend this set. They performed really well and did cure the muddy neck I struggled with on my Les Paul. I really enjoyed these. To listen to this set in isolation, click here. Next up, the Wizz Premium Clone PAFs come in at $425, which includes their replica pickup rings. Now, if you're not a historic Les Paul guy, you probably won't understand the value of the plastic. And frankly, I struggle to understand it sometimes myself, but the rings are $100 when purchased separately, so it is a nice bonus if you're into that sort of thing. It's actually honestly brilliant of them because the color does clash a little bit with the stock true historic plastics that come on the guitar. So I could definitely see people shelling out for their matching pickguard and poker chip to get it all to look right together. Anyways, sticking with the visual aspect of the set, these had what I thought was the best aging of the bunch. I particularly like the ghosting they have and the shadowing under the strings. It looks really natural to my eyes. It's worth noting these covers visually are immediately different looking than the rest. I don't know the nuances behind historically accurate PAF covers, but they look a little bit more squared off and less rounded and more flat, which I think gives a great look on the guitar. Moving on from the looks, this set was fascinating to me. After installing and playing each pair, I wrote down my first impressions, untainted by listening back to them all side by side. And for this set, I wrote that they seemed special. They were aggressive, but in a good way, as well as very fast, and I wrote just the live feeling. Listening back, however, they appeared much more tame and honestly pretty flat and more 2D than some of the others. I'm not sure why my initial feelings didn't translate to the recorded audio, as nothing changed between pickups, but I do think it's worth mentioning that I really enjoyed this set, and they were immediately a standout for me while playing them. They were the second noisiest of the bunch, and were the second most microphonic, meaning they picked up everything from string noise to tapping on the guitar body. This made them come across as super alive, more so picked up as the player than anything you're really going to hear in the video. They did also bloom quite a lot. This is especially true with the PT15 amp. Additionally, in the comparison, they did come across as pretty flat to me, with a good balance between fullness and clarity as well as output. They pushed the amps a bit harder than the others while still having more clarity than the stock set. Dynamically, I didn't feel like they had as much range as, say, the Doyle Coils did. My impression is that these are what I wish the Custombuckers that came stock with the guitar sounded like. I think these would please the vast majority of people, and they're really just a great all-rounder. They're not super underwound, they still have a nice amount of push, while still having really good clarity and a lively character. To listen to this set on their own, click here. Next up in the list, from least expensive to most expensive, are the Doyle Coils. These come in at $525 new, which includes pickup covers. However, I decided to leave them uncovered because I love double whites, and their aging on the pickup covers is not my favorite. It's mainly just the string shadow lines you can see there. It just looks a little unnatural and artificial to me. In my initial impressions notes after playing the set, I wrote they had excellent note separation and clarity, they were crazy microphonic and very alive feeling, and they were a little undefined in the middle strings. Listening back when compared side by side with all the others, my impressions came across pretty well, I think. These pickups were exceptionally clear in all positions, with no trace of mud to be found, even on the neck. One might even say they were pretty jangly sounding, particularly in the middle, which I loved. They also had this really great aggressiveness and what I can only describe as airiness, which I know is just a term that doesn't really mean anything, but that's the only way I can describe it. It just made them stand out from the rest. I actually tried doing some blind tests to see if I could pick out various sets, and I was able to pick the Doyle Coils out in every single excerpt I did. How much of that comes down to the lack of covers? I have no idea, I'm not sure. Maybe another test for another day. In addition to their great clarity, they had a really great note separation, and they also had a really good amount of push, and felt probably the least compressed of the bunch. I found them super expressive to play, and I enjoyed the extra mid-range they featured over something like the Rewind set or the RAF set, while still maintaining some of the best clarity of them all. Similar to the Wizz set, these bloomed quite a bit when ringing out chords, which I really enjoyed. They were the noisiest of the lot, however, and really microphonic for better or worse. Here's me showing an example of what I mean. Apart from the Wizz set, the others either didn't do this at all or barely did it. I found this meant they picked up everything when finger picking or hybrid picking and really just amplified everything going on, sometimes to a fault. I definitely wouldn't say it's for everyone. These also featured quite a lot of aggressive top end that I can see some not enjoying. I will say personally, I really like it, and as I've said in past videos, I tend to always prefer a brighter bass tone because it's easy to just roll it off with the guitar's tone control. Listen to the Doyle Coils in isolation by clicking here. Finally, the last set in this test going by price are the Rewind Electric T-Tops. Unfortunately, these aren't PAF replicas like I thought they were when I bought them. However, I'm really glad I still included them in the test because they offered a great alternative for those looking to upgrade their humbuckers. I think most people are probably familiar with PAFs or vaguely so, but I doubt many have ever even heard of T-Tops and certainly have never heard them side by side with PAF style pickups. Anyways, this set cost $558 to $588 new, depending on the aging you ordered. My initial notes after installing them were that they were exceptionally responsive to pickup height. Prior to filming, I installed all the pickups at roughly the same height, but then I spent 30 minutes or so playing through them, adjusting the pull pieces and the pickup height by small increments to best complement the individual pickups. These seemed to change the most with the small adjustments I was making. In addition, I found them at first blush to be very aggressive with lots of brightness. Listening back to the comparison, they had what I thought was a very similar top end to the Doyle Coils, even though they still have the covers installed. punchy and more scoop sounding than the others. And the neck in particular had very little mud and came across very detailed through all of the amps I played them through. These also had a very similar open and airy character as the Doyle coils, only to what I'd say is a lesser degree. They definitely pushed the amps harder than the resistance rating would suggest, and the biggest weakness to me was the set lacked snap on the wound strings as compared to the others. I have limited experience with T-tops, so I'm going to assume that is a function of the pickup design itself. Regardless, even compared to the stock set, the snap just wasn't there. Here's a quick example of what I mean when I say snap. Overall, these were better behaved than the Doyle coils and Wizz sets. I found the top end a little much in some excerpts, but again, I lean towards having too much top end as a starting point versus not having enough, and these were definitely not flat or one-dimensional sounding. To listen to the Rewind T-top set all by itself, click here. So now the final question, which set is staying in the guitar? Well, they all had their strengths and weaknesses, but the set that really spoke to me in this guitar was the Doyle coils. They felt just honestly really special to play and seemed the most dynamic and expressive while still offering the best cut and the least mud out of all of them. I'm not sure if I'll want uncovered double whites forever, but right now I'm really loving this look. I think it looks killer and is very unique. Maybe when I get tired of them, I'll do a video comparing covers on and off. Subscribe if you want to see that. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I'd love to hear whether you agree or disagree, so comment below. If you like these in-depth comparison videos, also comment below. With enough interest, I might do a brand new comparison featuring some new humbucker sets in my Gibson ES345. So stay tuned, and until next time, I'll see you guys.